Warning, warning, I am a normal person. I'm not going to hate on this show because they changed old characters, races, sexualities, body type, etc. If you want to watch someone be irrationally upset over such things, you're in the wrong place. Hi, hello, my guys, gays, and purists of rays. Fun fact about me. From late October to, I'd say, December, I was severely obsessed with everything Scooby-Doo. After years of not getting to the end, I finally finished Mystery Inc. and watched almost every Scooby-Doo YouTube video I can get my grubby little hands on. I watched Guess Who and tried to watch the newest movie, but I didn't like it. I had a curated watch list of the best Scooby-Doo movies, old and new, to watch, but I wrote them down on a Procreate file, and if you saw my Puss in Boots video, you know how that went. And I just got super obsessed with these 5 characters and how to write them best. I even made my own iterations you see me drawing in the back, and eventually I will make a video diving into my personal Mystery Inc., but not today. I say all this to say I'm a fan of the Scooby-Doo franchise. It's not all perfect, but when it gets done right, it gets done right. Very recently, it did not get done right in the slightest. It got done, dare I say, wrong. VELMA is the 2022 revamp spin-off of Scooby-Doo, which tries to explain the origin of Mr. Inc., but with Velma at the forefront, an oriented and adult audience. No one wanted this show. No one was excited about this show. Annoying people that don't go outside enough were mad that they made everyone's race different. Boo-hoo, cry me a river. Normal people were put off by the lack of Scooby-Doo in the Scooby-Doo spin-off, how unfunny and painfully meta the only trailer we got for it was, and that they completely altered the personality and name of beloved Shaggy.
That's not my baby!
May he rest in peace. That's off the script. I just thought that was fun. Which fun surprise you get when you watch the show. Norville is not only worse a character than we could have hoped, they also just botched everyone. Now, again, I am normal. I didn't go into this show to hate watch or even expecting to hate it. I, as much as possible, went in with my expectations completely non-existent. Shows get bad trailers all the time. Media gets badly represented in press all the time. This show could shock and be amazing. It did not. It's bad. It's bad, but it's not very bad. I actually think there are only 2 really big glaring issues that if they didn't exist or were handled better, this show actually could have been great, dare I say, great.
If I ever even think about getting into 420 culture, or especially 420 related humor, kill me. You know what 420 is, right?
Yeah. It's code for adults who still watch cartoons.
Kill me.
One of those 2 glaring problems is the meta. I barely know her. Doesn't work because that's not a word. One of those 2 glaring problems is the meta humor. It's constant, unrelenting, and rarely funny. The show is honestly characterized like Velma in the show and in Mystery Inc. At all times, the show is trying to prove it's smarter than you. Constant lampshading, like in the pilot where they do a joke about how much gratuitous violence and nudity there is in pilot episodes, while in a woman's shower, like, ha, guys, look, we're doing the thing. And oh my god, it's even worse, because it's a lampshade about lampshading, because the 2 girls arguing in the scene, like, bring up how in Riverdale's pilot, Betty and Veronica kiss, but then Cheryl points out how cliche and boring that is, which was Riverdale lampshading, which they did a whole lot in their pilot, and now they're making fun of the Riverdale pilot for doing the lampshading while they're lampshading. It's just like, dude, the meta humor is so fast and, like, again, unfunny and complicated that most of the time you don't really get the joke the show is trying to make or what the point is. And I'll say it, when it's not trying so hard to reference other media and make fun of it or whatever, the show is kind of funny, kinda. I found absolutely everything about this blonde guy really, really funny. I refuse to call him Fred. We'll get into that later. The people who, like, were mad because, oh, that character isn't that race, are probably gonna really hate this guy because he's the quote-unquote patriarchy and feminism bad. What's with all the man-bashing, blah, 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 blah. He's hilarious and good, and I love him. Remember in the next section, I'm gonna compare this show to 2 of my favorite cartoons of all time. A lot, because in a way, I think it was going for both of their things, but failed epically at both of them, one of which is Harley Quinn 2019, which is one of my prime biggest examples of how to fuck with a franchise correctly. But anyway, Harley Quinn does quite a bit of similar kind of meta humor. But not only is it not in a way where the show is trying to convince you it's smarter than you and point out it realized that criticism you have, yeah, we had it first. Like, you know, it's clever and woven into the plot naturally.
Wait, how can Harley be in here if we're in Harley? And if Harley is...
Yeah, I wouldn't think too hard about brain logic for the next 20 minutes.
But also, B, the show has its own unique sense of humor outside of its references. It doesn't rely on bombarding you with famous people's names and movie references and shit. While it does do that, it has its own humor that is natural and supports the tone and narrative of the show. Asterisk, anything nice I say about Harley Quinn 2019 throughout this video, I'm mostly talking about seasons 1 and 2. I still don't like season 3 all that much. It's jarring, it's hardly ever funny, and part of it feels so desperate.
Are you trying to choke me to death? You forgot Cuddies.
You're embarrassing yourself, Frederick.
Exactly. I think it has something to do with drugs, which I hate.
Second massive issue that could have really saved the show. This is not a Scooby-Doo show. It shouldn't have been a Scooby-Doo show. Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Harley Quinn 2019.
But what do we have in common?
Is that cringe? A Hamilton reference? I've never seen Hamilton, so it's not cringe. I only know it from TikTok. Is that more cringe or less cringe? How cringe? Where are we on the cringe meter? There are TV shows that took a look at massive, long-standing IPs/franchises, and then, in the words of Keith Happersberger,
Sought to make something new.
I bring these up to make something clear. I don't think there's anything wrong with rebooting something with a new spin/take. Mystery Inc., while arguably following most of the same Scooby-Doo formula, had their own take on the characters and went for a darker, grittier, and at times scarier tone and aesthetic. Harley Quinn reinvented and reinvigorated a good amount of Batman and DC's in general lamest characters. Hell, this show has one of the most interesting and fun Joker/Joker arcs. When does the Joker ever have a character arc? By the third season, he's a base socialist and a fantastic father. And Rise took these four brothers from the sewers. Four brothers from the sewers back to down. Rise. Sorry. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was enough, so Turtle Power. I never finished the show. I never watched the movie. I should finish the show and watch the movie. Because I got to Clothes Don't Make the Turtles, and I was like, oh my god. I don't know. It's just like made me sad that I was about to be done with the show. Not only I was about to be done with the show, but that's like one of the most elusive and best episodes of the series. And it's just like the one I've seen probably the most clips of, and it's just like, damn, I'm like actually about to finish the show, man. That sucks, dog. I love this show. And again, had their own takes, reinventing not just the Turtles, but their world, all the characters, New York City, and just giving this story we've seen over and over again since the 80s new life. So what? Why did I bring these up? What do they have to do with VELMA? All four of these shows feature characters you know and have seen, probably, let's be real, your whole lives. And all four shows aim to bring them into a modern day and refill them with each specific creator's own creative vision. However, where my examples succeed and VELMA fails very, very hard is this show doesn't feel like it was building off the pre-existing characters and making them this show's own. And a lot of people actually had this criticism with Rise, but with that show I can see how we got here with each of them. To me, Rise's take on each of the Turtles feels like natural evolutions and just interesting takes on the characters' stories. Like with Harley Quinn, same plant temptress trying to save the Earth, but with a bit of flavor and new perspective from a new set of eyes. Same police commissioner with an interesting relationship to the Bat, desperately trying to save the city with a new world he tonally matches and fits a specific comical role. These shows take the IP they're working with and take the characters and they build from there. With their own creative and new plots and scenarios, of course, and of course, they do also stray from the source material, but they never lose touch with who these characters are and where these stories came from. These are the ones I'm focusing on for the comparison, but hell, even Into the Spider-Verse, comic Miles and this movie Miles are very, very different, not to mention the movie having its own style, not akin to any Spider-Man media before it. And another one, DuckTales, 2017. The triplets beforehand were largely the same guy, but Huey was always the one who called bullshit on Dewey's bullshit, and Louie was always the one just kind of interested in something else. I say all this to say. On paper, I like the Velma characters. I do. I think they're all cute and have extreme comedic potential. Cynical, closed-off girl with mommy issues and scary hallucinations. Dork, who's obsessed with her and she just kind of ignores. Man-child, and rich girl who's not rich. I think comedically these characters could work, but they don't. Because whether subconsciously or on purpose if you're annoying, you are sitting there thinking, that is not Shaggy, that's not Fred. Like, honestly, being like an annoying fan for a second, Norville and this blonde guy in particular are really fucking bad character assassination. Norville's just basically, I don't know, a normal person for the most part, except for the two things. He's really fucking delusionally in love with Velma. Like, he was gonna give his kidney for a chance to be with her, and get ready for this one. You're gonna love this. Hates drugs! When this was a one-off joke in the pilot, I thought it was funny, not gonna lie. He, like, looks at the camera and everything stops for a second, and I thought it was a reference to Scooby-Doo's very old anti-drug episode thing where Shaggy is very anti-drug. And me and all the Scooby boys all laugh because Shaggy is the most stonery character who's not an actual stoner to ever exist. But then it kept coming up, and it got less funny. It was a novel joke the first time, but it got tired, and again, it's only been 2 episodes as of writing. I know, yeah, he does food review streams, so at least that's still intact, but yeah, I don't like Norville. I should clarify, I don't like Norville as a Shaggy stand-in evolution, whatever. He's boring, and yeah, that's the worst you can get when adapting Shaggy motherfucking Rogers. Shaggy is a lot of things, but one thing he is not is boring. This Norville guy isn't witty, or cowardly, or good lord, I don't even think he says like once. And okay, elephant in the room, I'm sorry. Him and Scoob are the most iconic duo of the whole bunch. I'd honestly rather watch a Scoob and Shaggy solo show than this thing, but okay. Also, I predict by the end of the season, Norville here will become a stoner. I'm a troublemaker. I know a misdirect when I see one. But even worse than Norville is this blonde guy. God. I know I said I love him. I do. I think he's hilarious and has the best bits in the show. His whole court thing in the 2nd episode so far is the best thing the show has done. He's so pathetic. I love him. But that guy is not Fred Jones. Fred Jones is courageous, selfish, and yes, dumb as bricks. He also looked like he was built with bricks. My dude's got a frame like a fucking house. Part of his bit in the show is that he's a late bloomer and is like a little boy in more ways than one. And yeah, it's pretty funny. Pretty mid-tier bit that they do some S-tier stuff with. But this selfish, spoiled little bitch boy whom I adore is not Fred Jones. And okay, not as egregious, but just pisses me off. I'm kind of sick of this take on Velma. My dad recently bought the Warner Brothers Smash Brothers game, and in it, Velma's moves include one where she can hurt you with speech bubbles, one of which just says sass in it, and one where she just yells at you with a megaphone. All of her voice lines are also just rude and cynical, and I'm just tired. Mystery Inc. started this trend, and I don't dislike sassy, sarcastic Velma in that show. I think they overdid it a little, to the point in some episodes she just doesn't seem like she wants to be there. Or as Brendan Blaber, aka Jello Apocalypse, puts it, she's infected with hates her friends disease. Are you guys keeping track of how many YouTuber references I've made in this one? I feel like I'm on a roll. I gotta get a billion references in somewhere. But still, in that show, she still sometimes was like having a good time, and she had her moments of just being adorable. I wasn't a big fan of Trick or Treat. It also felt a little too meta and like it was made by someone who hates Scooby-Doo. But Velma in it was so much closer to classic Velma. Like, okay, I do think a twinge of sarcasm is good in a Velma, but in general, Velma's main thing is smart and dork. She's just kind of adorable with how amazed she is with the pursuit of knowledge at all times. And for the love of God, let Velma like her friends! This Velma annoys me. I don't have boiling rage about her. I don't for any of the characters really, but she's just really annoying. And again, that's just not Velma. Bring back dorky Velma, down with rude Velma. Oh, and Daphne. I don't really give a fuck about Daphne, she's fine. These characters aren't bad, I'll say that a million times. I think they produce pretty okay jokes and have a lot of comedic potential. I don't think you even have to change that much of how the show is framed for it to work. You just can't lie to me and tell me that this is a Mystery Inc. origin story and that these strangers are Mystery Inc. I really think that could have saved a lot of people from hating your thing. This is so different from Scooby-Doo and everything that the franchise is, and hasn't thus far built on anything about it or even seemed to care all that much about its source material. However, I acknowledge that original work doesn't really do as well these days compared to big IPs. In this awful week for animation, it's been almost a month since I wrote this script, but we're gonna say this awful week as if we're in the same week anyway. In this awful week for animation, both Inside Job and Paranormal Park were canceled. Harley Quinn 2019 got another season, and shows like Wednesday are gonna keep getting seasons until the sun blows up. While I think it would have made a better show if this thing didn't aggravate so many people by murdering our beloved Mystery Inc., I don't think anyone would be talking about it, and thus not many people would be watching it. Besides those two things, I don't think the show is awful. It's just very okay. I actually really like its animation and art style most of the time. It has its ugly moments. But in general, the lines are really good. Lines as in, I mean like line art, not the speaking lines. The expressions are good, and sometimes the animation just gets really smooth and alive. I've realized recently that I say alive a lot when I'm talking about animation. That just like the way things move, being lively is something that's appealing to me. I keep comparing this show to Harley Quinn in my head because they are very similar in a lot of ways. They are both going for a similar tone, being raunchier, kind of dark humor versions of these classic American IPs, and they're both housed on HBO Max. Some of the themes feel similar, and the art style is just really reads Harley Quinn to me. I don't know. I say this to say, while Harley Quinn beats this show in a lot of things, in art style, Velma takes it. Other positives. Velma's hallucinations are cool. They're really well animated and at times are viscerally scary, although I do hate this thing they did in the pilot where like they zoom out and just like see other people's reactions. Just like, lol, aren't people that struggle with psychosis so weird? That was annoying, but it feels like over time they started treating it more seriously and sympathetically, kind of. Positives. I'm grateful for the show giving us, after 70 years of Scooby-Doo or something? After all that time, we are finally getting canon Velma and Daphne. I gotta talk about something very important. This show is set in Crystal Cove, the setting from Mystery Inc., the only Scooby-Doo setting that matters. And if I was more insane, like if this show came out in November last year in peak hyperfixation time, I've tried to figure out where it is in the timeline, but I've moved on. But anyway, there are also dumb lesbian cops who are Daphne's moms, and their whole thing is they like suck at being cops, and at one point they offhandedly mention a sheriff. Listen. Not to quote that misogynist neckbeard guy who needs to go outside from Harley Quinn, but...
Why would I watch a show that's set in
Crystal Cove?
but Sheriff Bronson Stone's barely in it?
I swear to God, if they do nothing with the fact that they set this in the same place as Mystery Inc. and they just happen to have the same name, it's gonna actually piss me off more than anything the show has done. You know what this show feels like? Honestly, this show feels like those overly graphic and sexual children cartoon parodies on YouTube from like the 2010s that I was too young to be watching. Like those, but bad, because I don't hate those. Often they were actually very creative and fun and well animated. Honestly, I feel bad for Velma. I do. It was shot down from the moment it was announced, and it seems like all sides of the internet and even actual news outlets are coming out with just the cruelest reviews of it. So I wanted to come here and just give it a fair shake. But I will say this. The first season of Harley Quinn was rough. A lot of jokes didn't work. They were clearly cutting corners in everywhere from the animation to the writing to the backgrounds. I mean, especially the pilot. There was just this extreme feeling the show didn't know what it was yet and was going to take time to find its footing and become the masterpiece it could be. But then, why? When only the pilot was out, did I watch it over and over again, waited patiently all week thinking about it, then ran to my TV every Saturday when a new episode came out and cry, cheer, and scream with each episode. This show from the very beginning had so much heart. It wasn't perfect at all. It had lots of flaws, but from the beginning, even though it wasn't perfect, it was clear they had a story they were passionate about with characters they were passionate about, and that passion, that heart gleamed through and made the show entrancing, even while it was still roughing out the kinks in its formula. That is my issue with Velma. I feel that it's still in that same stage, finding its footing and what kind of show it wants to be. However, I don't see the love for these characters or someone passionate trying to tell a story. I honestly just see gunk. Stale, overdone, and drab gunk. And I feel mean for saying that. I do, because underneath, I do see the potential of the show, like, I don't know, in a different universe. In their attempt to be smarter than everyone, they've made a show that is too cold to be enjoyed. It's kind of ironic, really, that this show constantly tries to satirize and belittle the teen drama genre. The same franchise's genuine attempt at that genre is so well thought out, creative, and one of the most fan favoritists of the whole franchise. It's telling.